Good question. Very basic question, but good because I think a lot of parents in the group, there's some that aren't going to have a clue that transportation is a right under the special education law. So your son will ride the special needs school bus Monday through Friday, pick up at 6:50 a.m. What should I expect? How should he be accommodated? Does this fit in with the IEP 504 plan? Edit to add, your son is not potty trained, suspected spina bifida, will get an MRI, anesthesia, and the MRI will determine and confirm diagnosis, nonverbal. Okay, so I don't know how old your child is, but really it doesn't matter. Let me go ahead and just answer. Yes, the IEP or 504, but in your case, it's going to be an IEP, I believe, absolutely. And transportation is a right. It provides your child access to a free, appropriate public education, which is the requirement for both 504 and IDEA. But if you have an IEP, then your 504 automatically melts and melds and connects into your child's IEP. So there's no need to have two separate plans. If you have an IEP, the 504 melds into it. If you have a 504 only and you don't have an IEP, not the case, okay? Now, that's because an IEP is like an enhancement of 504. So you have the civil rights protections and benefits of accommodations and equal access under a 504 melded with the IEP that includes specialized instruction and related services. And the related services are like OT, speech language, those kind of things that support the educational performance deficits for which the goals and services are developed. Okay, so transportation is a right because that's equal access. It's giving your child access to the program to where they're entitled to a free, appropriate public education. So that's where the IEP team needs to determine, and within the IEP, I don't know what stage you're in, but it's going to have a breakdown within the transportation section, whether your child needs preferential seating, whether your child requires an aid to support your child on the bus, whether your child needs a harness restraint, which typically happens with kids with behavioral concerns. They can also get a behavior plan on the bus. And I've had kids that have a behavior plan for the bus, but they don't necessarily need one at school. Having the bus driver aware of your child's conditions, even to the point of how does the bus pull into your complex, your house, down your road, the proximity to the front door, what's needed there, whether there needs to be a lift if your child's in a wheelchair, whether they have locking devices to lock the wheelchair into place, or whether they need to put the wheelchair away and transport your child, let's say with a two-person transport, into a seat in order to be harnessed in for safety and then monitored by a bus aide. All those things need to be determined through an IEP meeting and notated within the IEP itself. And so I also answered through that, how should he be accommodated, and does this fit into the IEP? So I've answered all of that. And that is where you definitively figure that out. Now, I will add this in as sort of an extra. If the school at any point says, well, we can't come down your road, or they give you some excuse about their inability to provide your child transportation, and they say that you need to do it, then guys, transportation's a right, which means that if they cannot offer you school bus services and you're having to transport your own child to and from school, then you are entitled to mileage reimbursement. That is, that the school system has to pay you for picking up and dropping off your child using, MapQuest or whatever, Google Maps, as far as calculating that. And then typically the average is to use the IRS mileage reimbursement, which is what, 57 miles or 57 cents a mile, somewhere in there. It changes every once in a while, so I'm just throwing that out there. It's somewhere around that. And if that's the case, then they need to cut you a check, typically every other week or once a month, to compensate you for having to transport your child. Also within the same section, guys, and it's actually below that in the below the transportation section, I have many schools that also will sit there and say, we'll provide your child bus transportation to and from school, but then we'll sit there when it comes to field trips or whatever else, we'll say that your child can only attend if you go or if you transport your child. That is absolutely not the case, guys. That's considered what's called a non-academic or extracurricular activity, and that is also an equal access civil rights issue to where your child has right to participate in these things just like every other child. And if that requires that your child be supported through an aide, you are not required to be there, then they need to do that. And you need to be able to assert that with confidence, knowing that you heard it from me, but that is also included in that. Okay?